Okay, we'll try that position today. Do I look a little taller? It's all about the positioning of the camera. Okay. Did I even call this anything? Well, today's topic today is the writer for hire. So I was thinking about this, and I'm thinking, okay, is God the writer of the story, or do we write our own lives? Is God the... So I'm thinking, and there's a couple of different types of writers. There's the writer for hire, which someone else has a vision and they didn't go to school and get educated in writing, so they hire a writer to write their story. And then there's the writer who just, writes for himself. He thinks he's artistic. He writes all this stuff and he doesn't really want to share it with anyone. And he's very, strict when it comes to the writing process, and you don't want to change a word in it. Don't change anything. And then they get down to contracts and all this kind of stuff. And then there's those writers who write for the audience, the fans, the people. So I'm just wondering what type of writer God is, and whether he's even a writer at all, that maybe he's just one of these people. Maybe God doesn't know how to write, or he's looking for someone with a good story, or he's trying to find a writer for hire. So it got me contemplating, got me thinking, is God a writer? Does God know how to write? And maybe we are the writers of our own lives. And, God he's just looking for some writers. But you can only write about what you know. You can only preach what you know. And I can get some spotlight going over here. I've never even heard of this book. This book is called Sirach, S-I-R, Sir, A-C-H. The A is pinching the I, so that makes it I. Sirach. This is not an A because it's not being pinched. So you got Sirach Church. Sirach Church. Sirach. The book of Sirach. Sirach? No. Yeah, Sirach. Sirach. Never heard of it. Chapter 44. I guess we'll read the first 15 stanzas. Chair over here a little bit. Who's that here? Okay. Now let us praise famous men and our fathers in their generations. The Lord apportioned to them great glory. The Lord appointed to them great glory. The majesty from the beginning. There were those who ruled in their kingdoms and were men renowned in their powers, giving counsel by their understanding and proclaiming prophecies, leaders of the people in their deliberations, and in understanding of learning for the people, wise in their words of instruction. Those who composed musical tunes and set forth verses in writing, rich men furnished with resources, living peacefully in their habitations. All these were honored in their generations and were the glory of their times. There are some of them who have left a name so that men declare their praise. And there are some who have no memory, who have perished as though they have not lived. They have become as though they had not been born, and so have their children after them. But these were men of mercy, whose righteousness deeds have not been forgotten. Their prosperity will remain with their descendants, and their inheritance to their children's children. Their descendants stand by the covenants, their children also for their sake. Their prosperity will continue forever, and their glory will not be blotted out. Their bodies were buried in peace, and their name lives to all generations. People will declare their wisdom, and the congregation proclaims their praise. Well, I think it's talking about, innocent people's lives who have been taken from this place, who are the innocent being snuffed out, and that these artists have come and gone in this world and have been snuffed out. So, I mean, you can obviously look at the industry and see talent that's been snuffed out, and there's a whole conspiracy involving children, the sacrificing of children, Hollywood, young kids getting involved in becoming stars, and so the celebrity life, right? But Hollywood is about censorship, and there's what you do in public, and then there's what you do in private. So they tell you these laws, and then they say, okay, don't mix up your public life with your private life. And what you do in private, be very careful what you do in private. We give you a lot of liberties, but if you ever, if you ever take that to the stage, if you ever take that into the limelight, the Illuminati is going to take you out. You can't be whipping your penis out on stage in front of 14-year-old girls. You're done. They'll take you out like that. Now, you might want to stretch the limits behind closed doors. They say 18. In fact, they say the law says if a kid drops out of school, the age is 14. So you can have a kid at 14 years old and be 30, 40 in his private space. And the law won't touch you if that child is not in school. It's considered an adult. But these are the lines of morality and ethics. For me, I'm all about kids are kids until they're 25. I don't care if they're in school or out of school. Like if you're in school, you're considered a child and you can still get your parents for custody. Like the one thing I recommend for kids is to stay in school, move out, and then stick your parents with the living expenses because the law will back you. So, but for me, it doesn't matter if a kid's in school or not in school. A kid's a kid till they're 25, you know. I used to run the NC-17 trip that Hollywood had going, but it was tough. And I decided that there's no way. NC-17 is way too young. Anyways, the whole thing got shut down. And the age has been risen to 25, whether you're in school or not. So, and parents are going to be held more responsible for their children up to the age of 25. And then they're just going to have to get used to it. What, are they going to say no? These people are trained to say yes. Because that's a very positive thing. I'll say yes. So they end up saying yes to everything, not even realizing that no is the answer. And you know, someone asks you to do something, you're like no or yes. And usually people will do the opposite. They don't really want to help this person, but I guess and you never know. Okay, I'll give this guy a chance. Off you go. I say yes, even though you meant no. Or sometimes you say yes, or you say no when you mean yes. So you got just make sure you say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. And that if this person is like 25 years old, barely an adult. I mean, how young do people have to be? And with no, well, put them in front of a camera at 17 years old and get them to take their clothes off, and then get people to pay millions of dollars to come see these young girls in bikinis, and all because they dropped out of school and wanted to, make it big in Hollywood. So there's all this kind of stuff. I kind of set the stage as far as like, no, man, like, I mean, they've been telling me my whole life, oh, you're an adult, this and that. No. I don't believe in tough love, never have. Not to say that women aren't, seduction. They know the game. Men harass, women seduce. They tell the men to stop harassing, but they don't tell the women to stop seducing. And the Bible verse, but I think it's just about snuffing out the light, and that how many lights have been snuffed out, how many artists, that those artists that have been snuffed out will be remembered forever, not only on earth, but in the kingdom. I guess I don't have much to worry about. Let's see who's on here. Maybe I'll play a song. My My knee's getting better, and of course, I pick up my guitar and then hit my funny bone and hit my knee. Of course, right? That's how the story goes. If anybody wants to send me a free King James version, I'm looking for a King James, but for me, it goes even deeper than that. I mean like a first edition King James. Oh yeah, this isn't even King James, the Roman Catholic Church. I'm telling you, these guys. Anyways, the oldest King James version out there is what I'm looking for. And then maybe we can start from there. But for now, I'll see what kind of King James version pops up. I used to save Bibles from graves when I worked at the Jewish cemetery. Working at the Jewish cemetery was kind of odd because I was at this job placement program and I had to do this questionnaire about your emotions and who you are. And depending on all that, the computer would generate a job for you, a career path for you. So I did these 300 questions. It might have been like 600, 700. I know, like there was 3 fucking. I'm not supposed to swear, am I? Anyways, don't get me into the F word, because the F word actually means a herd of sheep or a sheep herder. I'm not sure, but there's something about that word. I apologize. Anyways, where was I? King James Version of the Bible. See what it does? It distracts you. Look out my window, gather my courage and off I go. One man against an army, I tiptoe. Take it from the top. Take 2. I take a breath, look out my window, my courage and off I go. One man against an army, I tiptoe. Don't want to give myself away, so I say, come what may, have a wonderful, happy day. Have a wonderful, wonderful. That's why we practice. This is what practice looks like. From the top. Take a breath, look out my window, gather my courage and off I go. One man against an army, I tiptoe. I don't want to give myself away, so I say, come what may, have a wonderful, happy day. Have a wonderful, happy day. Have a wonderful, 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 happy day. Bouncing around like a spinning top. Gotta make one more stop. Gotta show the world what I got. I hope I'm not a flop. You know what I like to say a lot. Have a wonderful, happy day. Have a wonderful, happy day. Have a wonderful, 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 happy day. Falling behind on my bank loan, bloody nose to the grindstone. Wonderful, 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 happy day. See how the harp's doing. Oh, it goes out of tune fast. Definitely. Oh man, this goes out of tune pretty quick. Give me some patience here. Okay, well, that was 30 minutes, I guess. See what we got going here. No one's online to talk to. Doesn't mean I should sit here and talk to myself. Okay, well, let's pray. I don't really believe in the act of confession per se. You really need to confess to your heart. And if you do want to confess to people, confess to someone that you trust. Don't even really know. Because someone you don't really know, like a bus driver or the bartender, that's their role. Like, don't go talking and confessing to friends or enemies of friends. Go confess to the bus driver, to the priest if you have to. But even the priest, it can get into the congregation. I don't recommend you either confess to yourself, but I don't recommend confessing to the priest. I recommend just, confessing to the bartender or the bus driver. Try not to, confess to the waitress because she might, think she's got to save you or something. Anyways, so you can sit here and pray in silence, inwardly pray to the heart, the words you already know. I can pray if you'd like out loud, but let's try to just be silently pray here. And try not to pray for yourself, but pray for others. Don't prey upon others. Pray for others. Amen. And a chance to give. If you feel the need to give, that would be great. I can continue to do this. I would like to do this every day, really. Get up here, practice a few songs, read the Bible, play some music, listen to some spoken word. Whatever you feel you need to give, even if you just tuning in is like giving anyway. If you really want to give, just watch the program. They'll start giving to me. Start liking and sharing, and you don't have to worry. That will be your tithe. But I'd rather you forgive someone than give your money. Obviously, you have to give your money as well. But who are you going to give your money to? Don't be afraid to take the family out to dinner and tip the waitress. People like to go out and tourists and go somewhere and spend their money there. But it's not really about how you make your money. It's about what you spend your money on. So you just really think about that when you're spending your money. Are you spending it on yourself? Are you spending it on your children as a means of control, spoiling your children? Are you saving up for their higher education? What are you spending your money on? Are you helping out someone with some food, some groceries, some power? And what are your motives for helping this person and giving to this person, and to try to give to someone without any motive or thinking you're going to get something in return? Because that's what giving is. You give away something, whatever it is, and you don't expect anything in return. It's a gift. Here we got the loan program and compounded interest. But that's not how the real game works. The game God's playing.
Abraham was old, but he didn't put up no fight. And Sarah says, you can go have a child by this Egyptian handmaid Hagar. I'm gonna raise this child as my child. Abraham didn't say no, Sarah. He went right on into that young, beautiful African woman, had a child named Ishmael. And then years later, 15 years later, God makes good his promise to Sarah, and she has a child. Well, the problem was, God had promised her she'd have her own child who would be the son of promise named Isaac. Well, things got rough and tough in the household. That Sarah, God came to Abraham and said, Abraham, you got to send Hagar and Ishmael away. And because Isaac is a son of promise, I'm gonna bless Ishmael. He's gonna be a blessing, but Isaac is a son that I promised you, right? And so Abraham has to give Sarah. Abraham has to ask Hagar to leave his home. And so that's what that scripture that refers to. Cast out the bondwoman and the son, for the bondwoman should not be the heir with the son of the free woman. So that really says that Isaac was going to be the progenitor, was going to be the lineage, but God was going to bless Ishmael. So again, right here is Abraham.
We'll go to the 45-minute mark. Listen to this guy for a little bit.
So even in the book of Galatians,
we'll cut out on the hour mark.
From the Old Testament, y'all see it? That's the point. So even in the New Testament, Paul is still quoting from the Old Testament. Y'all got it so far. Jacob
Well, I
and
can go
Esau,
off on Jacob and Esau.
the sons of Isaac. Right? They were twins.
See, there's a bit of a puzzle in the story of Abraham.
And they were twins.
I always
But in
thought
their belly,
that
um,
Abraham came after Jacob and Esau. Because for me, it makes a little more sense as a writer. Let's turn this guy down for a bit. Because when I read it, when I first read it, I thought that Jacob and Esau, they were battling over the Holy Land, and God was like, hey, you two stop battling over the Holy Land because I'm going to give it to this guy from Babylon. And that Abraham was from Babylon, and city. And so they couldn't stop arguing over the Holy Land, so they gave the Holy Land to the Babylonians, this guy named Abraham, who came from Babylon. And then, I don't know if it's one of those complexes or what they call, but then all of a sudden I'm reading it again, or someone's telling me, no, that's not how the story goes. Abraham came first, then Jacob and Esau. I think they mixed the scriptures up myself. I think they got some of the words wrong. I think they've mixed up stanzas and books in different orders. Like they don't know the order. They're hoping they know the order. They've kind of got some idea of the order and the words and stuff, but really, in truth, the original papyrus, when they dug it up, was like degraded by 40%. The word of God was degraded by 40%. I'd rather them just give me the original papyrus. But the oldest version of the King James will do. Anyways, I also think Adam was an alien and his bloodline ended with Cain in Babylon, where he met Noah's father, Lamech. He wasn't part of the bloodline of Noah. Nowhere does it say that it goes Adam, Cain, Noah. It says Adam, Cain, Noah's father met Cain, befriended Cain. I don't think Cain made the boat, but Adam and Eve did have a third child in Ethiopia named Seth, and he may have survived the flood at the roof of Africa, the volcano, which is like right here somewhere. It's a volcano. I think the volcano is at the tip of the Valley of the Kings. That's where the Negroids gathered when the flood happened. So after the flood, Noah went out and looked for survivors, and he found some survivors on the mount at the roof of Africa. They found some survivors in Everest, the Mongoloids, and they found some white survivors, the Jews. They found the Jews had survived. But Noah itself was originally a Viking. All that aside, I'm not trying to fool anyone. I'm just trying to get the story straight here. And I don't think everyone's got the story straight. That God had that Jesus wasn't the Son of God, but God did have 3 children, the devil, Isaac, and Joseph. And he had a wife called the Spirit of God. And he had 2 daughters that Lot mated with, but they pass it off as an incest story. But those angels were there. They could have been, I don't even think they were his daughters. They were these angels that came to warn Lot. And he went up into the cave with the angels and gave birth to the Valkyries. And he was a Viking as well. It's like they take out the Viking story. And in truth, it's Egyptian. Like the whole thing takes place in Egypt. It's the plight of the Egyptians. So the last time I checked, God gave rights to the Holy Land to the Babylonians. And don't even get me started. So does that mean the Babylonians have claim over the Holy Land? According to this map here, the Egyptians have claim over the Holy Land. See, it says here, Egyptian property, region subject to Egypt, all up through here, all the way to Mount Ararat is all Egypt. You think Egypt's only here, but they're battling over the Holy Land. They've been battling over the Holy Land forever, but according to this map, it belongs to Egypt. The Negroids. So, but all whites are Babylonian. And Adam crash landed here from another planet, and Satan was the devil spawned Satan. That's why he was punished. And he actually fell in love with Aphrodite, and they had this hermaphroditus, and was born, and he was punished and sent to hell, and Aphrodite was turned into a zombie. And he created Satan out of the stuff of dreams. He tried to become mortal through the dream world, and thought he could spawn a being in the dream world, the boogeyman. That's what he did, turn dreams into nightmares. Let's listen to this guy for a little bit more.
There was a word that I gave you a couple weeks ago. This is point 3. This is called Apocrypha. It's called the Apocrypha. Okay? And we're going to put that on the screen. Would you go to point 3 for me? The Apocrypha. Just next slide, please. The Apocrypha. Okay, I want you to get this word. So I'm not throwing a lot of words at you guys. I hope y'all are with me. Apocrypha. So would you go to the next slide? This is the apocryphal books and other versions. Okay, now we're gonna go deep for a second. Y'all please stay on the line. Apocrypha. These are called the Apocrypha. Apocrypha means hidden, concealed, or lost books. I'm gonna give you a few of the apocryphal books and I'll talk about it. All right, these are some of the books that didn't make it in here. They're called hidden, concealed, or lost books. You can find some of these in some versions. I think it's the Oxford Annotated Bible. Some of the Bibles included a lot of some of the Catholic Bibles included these. It's the books of Tobit, the book of Judith. There's a book called the Book of Wisdom. There's a book called the Book of Ecclesiasticus. There's a book called the Book of Baruch. There's a book called 1st and 2nd Maccabees. And then they have other additions. They have a book called Esther and Daniel, the additions to Esther and Daniel. Okay? These are called apocryphal books. Okay? These are some of the apocryphal books. I don't want y'all to be scared. Thank you so much, Amy. Yes. Derek Hunt, 23 books of Old Testament, I believe 11 New Testament. The Bible we use today mentions that we keep sure. All right. So we have absolute there. We're gonna go deep. Just let it context. These are called apocryphal books that really came about maybe around the 12th century, I guess. And I'm gonna talk about that for a moment. And some of these books were written together. Then you had some other books that didn't make it in. And I'm gonna give you all these. You have a book called these Old Testament books. You have one called The Conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan. There's a book just called The Conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan. You got another one called Second Enoch. There's a book called the Book of Second Enoch. You have one called The Psalms of Solomon, not the Songs of Solomon, but the Psalms, Psalms, the Psalms of Solomon. Joseph son. You have one called Aristeas, Aristeas. You got the book called the Fourth Book of Maccabees. You got one, the story of Ahikar, Ahikar. You got the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. And we even have some New Testament books. But I'm going to take my time and just kind of go through it little by little. You have some other Gospels. There's a Gospel of Thomas. There's a Gospel of Judas. So you had different books in the Old Testament and New Testament. Y'all with me so far? So you had different books, right? You had the book of you had the book of Gath, Chinese. So you have a lot of different books. I'm gonna show you a few of these, where some of these are referenced. Not today, because I don't want to get ahead of myself. And because I want to just give you an overall picture, then we're going to dig deeper. Now, many of these works were not written to become a part of the canon of Scripture. It's very important we understand that. And some of these books were known. Some of these books were known to the original audience, and that's why some of them are quoted. So in the Old Testament, you see some of these are quoted. Like there's a book called, and I read some of these for school. It was, it's kind of weird reading them, but I had to read some of these and do reports on them. And while I'm on that, let me just interject this quickly. It's a lot. Y'all stay with me now. Some of these books were written, and this is going to be our next series, during a period called the intertestamental period. And the intertestamental period is a period in between the Old and New Testaments. It's also called the silent years, intertestamental period. There's a 400-year period. Now, I want to get ahead of myself because this is the next series, but I just want to give you a little more context. It's called the silent years. So in between the last book of the Old Testament and the first book of the New Testament was a period called the intertestamental period. Intertestamental. So in between, it's 400 years. It's also called the silent years. And during that time, people believe, many scholars have taught, that during that time there was no inspired word from God. That's why it's called the silent years. No inspired word from God. It was also during that time that, and we kind of talked about this when I went through the book of Philippians with you guys a few months ago on morning do. Philip II of Macedon had a son whose name was Alexander the Great. I'm going to get to this. I just want to give you a large view. And Alexander the Great is the son of Philip II of Macedon. And Alexander the Great was about bringing what we call Hellenism, which is Greek influence, throughout the whole world. So it was Alexander the Great who was, really on a quest to make the whole world look Greek. And he was conquering the world, parts of Africa, the Middle East, Palestine, and he would have conquered more territories had he not died at the age of 33. So Alexander the Great, the son of Philip II of Macedon, that's the guy who started Philippi, Macedonia. When you hear Philippians or Macedonia, this is the territory of Macedonia in the book of Philippians. Philippi is named in honor of Philip II. Macedonia is named in honor of Philip II of Macedon. So Philip II is a great leader in the 3rd, 4th century, 4th century AD, because he gave birth to his son as Alexander the Great. And the reason why the language changed, the culture changed from Hebrew and Greek in the Middle East, even parts of Africa, was because of Alexander the Great. Now, why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this that it was during this time when many of these uninspired books were written. So a lot of the apocryphal writings, a lot of these books, many of them were written during that period called the intertestamental period. Okay? And they believed that God was silent and didn't speak into the New Testament. Okay? So scholars believe that those books aren't inspired. Okay? but you got several books, all right? Are y'all with me so far? And that was written during those times. And now, let me be honest with you. A few of these uninspired books are quoted in the Old Testament. Okay? And a lot of them are deep. A lot of them have historical accuracies. But they believe that they didn't fit the canon because they were not used as scrolls during the time of Jesus, which I mentioned y'all last week. So some of these books were written, some of them were known to the audience. There's another word I want to give you that I did give you last week. You got apocrypha, which means hidden or lost, but you also have pseudepigrapha. I don't think I gave that word last week, pseudepigrapha. Apocryphal means, that's the adjective, that means hidden or lost. But apocrypha is the noun. Now, let me also give you the pseudepigrapha. Okay? Let me spell that word for you. I didn't put this on the outline. I beg your apologies. Please pardon me for not doing so. Pseudepigrapha. That word is spelled P-S. Producer, can you put this on the screen for me? Please don't curse me out in English. Pseudepigrapha. That would be spelled P-S-E-U. Thank you so much, Ty. Thank you so much, Tasha. P-S-E-U. D-E. Producer, are you going to help me put this on the screen, please? Pseudepigrapha. Pseudepigrapha. I know she got cooked that slate. I know she's cussing out. I'm trying to give y'all this word. She's cussing me out. P.S. I don't see pseudepigrapha. Come on. Y'all just, Tina, can you write this down? Tina, Tasha, I need y'all write this in your chat. Okay, now she got it. She got it. Okay. P-S-E-U. D-E-P-I. P-I. All right, that's it. G-R-A-P-H-A. Pseudepigrapha. Right? Now, that's an important word. Pseudepigrapha. Now, typically when you see pseudepigrapha, that means a book was written but somebody else put their name on it. Or it was written in somebody's name. Right? That's typically what it means. It's somebody wrote it and used somebody, attached somebody's name to it. Right? That's typically the best way. Because pseudo means false. Right? So that's the best way to kind of explain it. So that's typically what it is. All right. So it's like if like somebody else wrote it, right? Somebody else wrote it, but they attach your name on it. I mean, it's not what's the word when you cop off somebody's paper? It's not that. It's to write something and attach somebody's name. You know, to make it sound like it's valid. So somebody say, I'm gonna write from the book of Enoch. Enoch didn't write it, just attach Enoch's name. Somebody, Jamie wrote it, but put Enoch's name on it. That's the best way to describe something. Okay? So you got some books in the Old Testament that are called pseudepigrapha. That names were attached to certain books, but those persons didn't write. And that's why those books didn't make it to the canon. Right? Thank you so much. Now, right up underneath that same, right there, can you put apocrypha? I'm going to try to get them on the same ones. You got pseudepigrapha and you got apocrypha. Okay? Can you put that on there for me? All right. A-P-O, apocrypha. That would be A-P-O. C-R-Y. C-R-Y-P-H-A. Okay, put beside that hidden or lost books. Dash hidden or lost books. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, plagiarism. Plagiarism, you cop off somebody's paper at your own. That's not what this is. No, it's not plagiarism. No, plagiarism is when you copy somebody's work and put your name on it. That's plagiarism. You copy off somebody's work or you use somebody's work as your own. That's not the same as pseudepigraphy. Pseudepigraphy is to write it and then put somebody's name on it. To write it and put somebody else's name on it. That's what pseudepigraphy is. Okay? So you have some pseudepigraphal books in the Old Testament. Okay? Are y'all with me? We doing all right? And like the New Testament, I told you got the Gospel of Thomas, for instance. You got the Gospel of Thomas. That would be more powerful. That would be more pseudepigraphal as well. You got the Epistle of Clement. You got the Lost Gospel of Peter. That's a book of Judas. I remember reading through the Gospel of Thomas one time. It was funny. It was the Gospel of Thomas. I was in college. And it was the Gospel of Thomas. He talked about Jesus as a little boy. It was really funny to me, and because it didn't make it in. But the Gospel of Thomas, I believe it was. Thank you, Tosh. Thank you. Right. Textbook. Yeah. It's one of the copyright textbook. Yeah. It's like, yeah. So to write that book and put my name on it, it's super. But I remember reading, I think it's Gospel of Thomas, I believe, I had to do a whole report on it and study from it. And it quoted, I'm just going to throw this at you because it's very funny to me. They had some little kids picking at Jesus in Nazareth, right? He must have been 11 or 12, I think. And the little kids were picking with Jesus. And the kids had some pet birds. So Jesus, didn't fight. He didn't fight them back. But he had to get them kids. He's been bullied. You know what I'm saying? And he had some supernatural power. Yeah, he had some supernatural power. And those kids were coming for him. And he didn't fight them back. But he just, blinked his eyes, whatever. Kill all the kids' birds. Kill every one of them. Make them start crying. And then once he killed the birds, he brought them back to life. Now, I don't believe that happened, but that's quoted. But y'all know, people go crazy and sweet stuff like that. Y'all know I love it. Because to me, I love a pity preteen Jesus. To me, it just made me love Jesus more. Because that's something, that's my God, Jesus. Get him off you, Jesus. They bother you, you ain't got to fight him back. Like, yeah, I'd kill one of the birds, make them cry, and go home to mom, and then come back and go back. The birds, I bet you won't bother me no more. That's he made me say, "Oh, I love Jesus," because he first showed me how to be me. But anyway, it was funny. But that's in the Gospel of Thomas. He was a little boy. Of course, that's not in our narrative. And I'm not saying that happened, y'all, but that's a one thing that said Jesus did when he was a little boy. And he grew up in the hood, so Jesus wasn't no weak. He can get you off with you. I kill your little bird to get you off if I have to. You ain't gonna take my lunch, man. You want your cornbread? You can take Jesus' cornbread. Kill your bird. Kill your pigeons, your sparrows, and your parakeets. Anyway, but again, that's just me being humorous, y'all. Y'all calm down. But that's in the Gospel of Thomas, right? And it made me love it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jesus, get him off you by any means necessary. But anyway. All right. Y'all with me so far? Y'all, we doing good? And so, so let me keep going. All right, y'all ready? Man, I'm getting a lot of good people, man. Oh, y'all with my boy. Read those, that is verse full history. So what I'm gonna do next week is show you how some of these books. I want to show you these books next week. I want to show you some of the books, some of the non-inspired books may have been quoted in the Old Testament, right? So, all right, let me finish this. Let's not come over my time. I got an interview downtown, so let me hit this right quick, all right? So, let me hit this, all right? So the hidden or lost books, the concealed books are called the Apocrypha, all right? And a lot of these books, thank you. Okay, good. They definitely want that smoke. You're right, they want that smoke. You're right, touch Jesus. God. Jesus, I kill your bird, boy. I go fry your rooster and your pigeon. You go put it on my table and put some hot sauce and eat your bird. You better get up off me. Anyway, don't y'all laugh. Now I'm just telling you, because some of y'all get mad. We're talking about my Jesus, right? All right. So it's, y'all cheating, all right? All right. So the people. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. So on this you got means hidden or concealed. Can you put pseudo pick on that too? Can you pull that down? Can you type into that one to put it on one page, not close out? If you can't find, you can't because you put it on the screen. So I'm gonna give y'all the word apocrypha. That means hidden or lost. Pseudepigrapha. That means a book that was written in place of somebody else's name.
Not to report to duty after the troops have left, after the army's on the march, because
he was done now. His program was ending. Let's tune into Benny Hinn, see what's going on for another half hour, and then I'll shut the program down.
Away from the presence of God, away from where they should be in their walk with the Lord. Do you remember what it says in Deuteronomy? Let's go to it. Deuteronomy 25. I am giving you the key here. The key to victory is to be where God is, to be in the center where God is. Deuteronomy 25, beginning at verse 17, he said, remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, as you were on the way, when you were come forth out of Egypt. How he met thee by the way and smote what? The hindmost of thee. In other words, those in the back, those in the rear ranks, even all that were feeble in those days, they were feeble physically, but now today, those who are feeble in faith and spiritually are in the back. When thou wast faint and weary. So the people that are defeated are those who are always late, always in the back of the crowd, always show up when the army has left for war or for the promised land in this case. So let's not report for duty when the army has gone. Let's not show up late. Let's be under the cloud of glory. Let's be where the presence of God is. Let's be where the glory of God is. And that's where we win. All right? That's where always we win. So, the cloud that has moved, we have to stay under it. And when we stay under it, then we receive what is promised to us in Luke chapter 9. Now, remember what I just been telling you. Those that were defeated were in the back of the crowd. They showed up late for duty. Luke 9 verse 1. Then he called his 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all devils and to cure diseases. So, there's a curse on Satan. There's a curse on Satan. And that curse is still working against him. And all we have to do is take our authority. Because in Genesis 3, the Bible says that God placed a curse on him that has been on him ever since that day. Genesis 3:14. I just want you to know what's on you and what's on him. On you is God's blessings. On him, God's curse. And the Lord said, verse 14 in Genesis 3, and the Lord said, I love this, unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. This curse was placed on the serpent, but it was placed in reality on the devil himself, because he used the serpent to tempt Eve. And the Lord placed that curse on him. That curse is still working against him, and has been ever since that day. So we have got to understand what is our duty. How do we get victorious and stay victorious? Luke 9:1, I give you power over all the power, not just some, all the power of the enemy. Nothing will hurt you. He gave them power and authority over all devils to cure disease. And so we have this power and authority now. And we have the promise. No weapon formed against you will prosper. We have the promise that we have power over the enemy and none of his power will touch us. But what do we do? Well, here's what we have to do first. Let's go to 2 Timothy, and I'm going to show you chapter 2, and beginning at verse 4. This is the first requirement. You cannot take the kingdom by force unless you do this. Verse 4, 2 Timothy chapter 2. No man that warreth, remember this is a war we are in, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life. Well, you can't be a soldier of Jesus. You can't win this war we're in if you're entangled in the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. Verse 5 says, and if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned except he strive lawfully. What is this saying to me? Well, number one, we fight the enemy by pulling away from the world, number one. Not being entangled with the world. But number two, we have to fight him according to the word.
Blessed be everyone. And remember, love is God's law. Try not to break it.